Support LaneSide. Get something cool.
Alright guys, welcome back. As always, I am the Bearded Beast, Rob Johnson, and as you can see, we are looking at the new Pure Madness from Columbia 300. Now, the original Madness was one of the first balls that I threw two-handed, so when they announced this one, I was very excited to get it. Now, for this episode, we're going to get a little bit technical, because I did some fun stuff with this ball. Now, as you can see, these fingers are in a bit of an unusual spot. Look at that pin placement. This is an unusual layout. This is our short pin, less hook layout. So if you're looking at the numbers, this was laid out 1 1/4 by 6 1/4 by 3/4 of an inch pal. For you dual angle guys, this is 80 by 1 1/4 by 40. Now, I did this for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't have a short pin, less hook, or less flare. Let's call it less hook. Some people say with short pins it's all about less hook, but it's not really. So we went with one that would have less hook. We wanted a ball that we could control the differential and the intermediate differential, and control how we drilled into the core. And the Pure Madness really gave us that opportunity. See, this one has a differential of 0.48 and an intermediate differential of 0.12. So it's just slightly asymmetrical. It's a little bit more continuous. But if you look at that core, when we laid it out in this fashion, we're actually drilling into it and making this core much wider and shorter. So we were going to really get it to roll heavy for us, which is what we wanted. Wanted a ball that was going to be able to get into a heavy roll, but not necessarily hook as much as something like the Extreme Envy that we put the short pin more hook layout on. So we were trying to get the differential somewhere between 45 and 55 after drilling, but we wanted that intermediate differential around 0.22. We wanted that 2.5 to 1 differential to intermediate differential after drilling, so that we could take advantage of the HK22 ERT solid on here. Now, we saw the HK22 ERT Plus solid on the Piranha, and that was a real sleeper for me. It was a very, very good ball. I'm assuming it's going to be probably maybe not as whippy down lane. Still very, very, very strong in the mid lane, but that's why we put that layout on there too. So the best way to find out how this ball rolls and how we did with the layout is to take it LaneSide and see how it's stacked up.
Alright, and welcome down to the lanes here in Barrie on the easiest of easy house shots. And as we said, we're looking at the Pure Madness. And, well, that looks like some pure performance. Now, I want to take a second here to talk about short pin layouts, because a lot of people get these wrong. A short pin layout is a layout with purpose. It's a layout that we want to control, where the ball is bleeding off tilt, where it's bleeding off rotation. We want to make sure that we create a controllable reaction that doesn't flare too much too early, so that we can create a continuous, slower response to friction ball motion. We want something that is going to be a little rounder down lane, but doesn't, jump off the lane when it sees the friction. It's not going to be so over-under. But it doesn't mean it's not going to hook. See? You see that? Holy cow! That's some performance. Yeah, no. Short pin layouts doesn't mean it's not going to hook for you, and I wish more two-handed bowlers would understand this. We're just trying to control how the ball is going through the pocket, how quickly it responds to friction, where it's going to hook, where it's going to roll. These are important things, especially for rev-dominant players like me, or if you're trying to create more of a urethane reaction, something that you're going to play in the oil and you're going to control the lanes, but with more versatility. A lot of two-handers, they don't think about these short pins. They go to their purple hammer or their urethane de jour, because I want to separate those. Purple hammer is much different than everything else. And as they play it, they start to blow up the fronts. They start to take that oil from the front part of the lane, and it gets deposited down lane. We make the lanes tighter down lanes, so they're not going to hook as much. They're not going to respond as much, but they are going to see the friction farther up lane. So we're going to get it, potentially hooking too early, rolling too early, not having enough hook. Well, we don't seem to have that problem with this ball. This ball still gets into a roll like we see our traditional urethane get into, but it still has that continuation, and it's not going to make the lanes tighter down, when you're in your game 2, game 3, game 4, because it's not, because it is absorbing oil. It's not repositioning the oil. Urethane doesn't absorb, but reactive does. And that's what I mean by more versatile. This ball we can play longer because we're not going to make the lanes tighter. It's going to make it easier for us to make our choices later in the block. And you can see I keep moving left here. Oh, good God. Look at that carry. That was, I think, maybe the 7 pin coming off the sidewall, taking out the 9 and 10. Yeah, we love that two-handed carry. That's why we put revolutions on the ball, for more angle of entry and better pin carry. So you can see I keep moving left. I started at my feet lined up at 35, which means my shoulder was probably over around 25. And you can see I'm trying to keep it in the oil all the way down just to keep the ball controlled, let it use its energy to slow down rather than hook. I don't want all that energy down lane. And you can see, even that deep with a weak hit, I was still able to carry out that 7 pin. And normally if I'd used a ball with a lot more flair to it, it would have run out of energy. It would have hit flat. We definitely would have seen a 7 pin there, probably a 4-7. Now here I am left-handed, and like I said, it's all about controlling the energy. Look how that ball goes through the pins. You want to make sure that your ball has enough energy down lane so that it can get through the pins and not deflect. Here we are with the Rattler. As we always say, every company has a benchmark ball similar to this, similar core and cover dynamics, maybe not exact, but at least similar enough that we can compare apples to apples. So here we are, the Rattler versus the Pure Madness. The Rattler being the first ball out of my bag. Pure Madness, I'm going to say probably something that I want on heavier oil, because you can see it is hooking more, its motion is earlier, and it has a lot more hook down lane than my Rattler when it sees that friction and starts to make its move. Watch it here from the top angle as we go through the slow motion cam. You can see I'm about 5-6 boards inside, and it goes another 3-4 boards out. And definitely has a much rounder shape. Much more rounder shape than my Rattler. And you can see that a little bit more from the lane level here. How it really addresses that friction. Watch as it comes on. Here's the Rattler. Very controlled. You can see I'm getting it out maybe to 10 or 12 at the most. I'm not trying to swing the lane with this. But with the Pure Madness trying to control where my ball hooks, we're going to see a much different reaction. Look at this. Much earlier. And it almost, you can see it roll forward a tiny bit more. And that's because of how much differential we've created, an intermediate differential that we've created in this ball, just with this layout. So watch it here in the slow motion. So you can see it's getting outside, sees it. It rolls forward, but it still gets through the pins the same as the Rattler. Very, very impressed with this ball. If you are a two-hander out there looking for something to control the oil with, but you don't need to hook the whole lane, it'd be Pure Madness not to pick this one up. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a show. So until next time, guys, we'll see you laneside.